In here. What's up, Jim?
Hey, Patrick.
Okay.
We were wondering when you guys were going to show up.
Yeah, sorry guys. It's a bit of a crazy. Yeah. Wow. So there's a lot to talk about. As usual. Normally, I would have Meta give the updates.
Kelly's going to come.
Kelly's going to come to give the updates. Okay, so why don't I talk a little bit about the conference? The conference is going amazingly well. We've had really, really good feedback from everyone I've talked to. They've been very excited about what they're hearing. Let's see, both on the internal conference and then the public-facing conference. We've had a lot of great discussions on the technology side, talking about especially about consensus and the pricing model, and making sure that those are in sync. There's still some issues I think to resolve, but we're making headway, so that's very exciting. We've also heard from a lot of companies. And I've been very excited. Last night there was a great shindig that Reflective put on, and I got a chance to meet with some of these personally, and I have to say I'm very, very thrilled. Yeah. Let's see. One thing that maybe Patrick can update us on is the marketing, how the marketing is going forward. You want to talk a little bit about?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Here, I can move down if you want to get in this line.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Patrick.
You can just turn it here.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. So one of the things that we accomplished in the internal meeting between some of the principals of Reflective, Pythia, Pyrofex, as well as the co-op is we've gotten a full agreement on the nature of how the operational procedures will work and for the execution of the actual marketing plan. And so now we're working on kind of more detailed approaches on each strategy and how we plan on tackling each sprint and starting small and then building up from there. So that was like really that was really impressive that meeting that we got a lot done in that actual meeting. Yeah. And then kind of to piggyback on that, there's a lot of progress being made on the front for RChain branding. And to Greg's point, I think we're going to design it in a way that operates like a pattern language was the language or the description that Greg used. So what that will be is kind of this.
Okay, someone open the door.
Oh yeah, we have more guests. But what that will do is kind of allow for this framework for entities such as Meta just entered, but entities such as the Reflective dApps, as well as other groups to kind of use that branding in a way that will make it seem RChainy, but still have a distinct and diverse flavor to it. So that was awesome, and we're getting ready to finalize that. We have a couple of statements of work from firms that we're assessing, as well as considerations for other kind of operational procedures to execute on that. And then, just a bunch of other things in regards to marketing, such as Tim's here. We're talking through examples of how we could progress in the European market, as well as some membership coordination type of activities. Besides that, it's also been great and quality conversations. It's been amazing.
Oh yeah, it's been a really, really high level discussion, very high bandwidth, and people are super engaged. But we're ready for what I know everyone is ready for, which is the update. Yeah. You
Sure.
can take my seat if you want. This is kind of the best spot.
Right.
Yeah, I got a short outline.
Am I on camera? Oh, there I am. Okay. Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm pleased to report the development update. So I actually just gave a roadmap presentation, and the development conference is going extremely well. The development team, the consensus folks have been huddled in a room. I locked them in a room. Those people that have been here at the conference got to observe that. They were hammering out details around sharding until pretty late last night. They didn't get to dinner until almost 8 o'clock. So they were in the room for like 2.5 hours working out sharding. And then I got them out of bed early yesterday. So they were here 7:30 in the morning in this room working on consensus. And I believe we're very close to having our proposal finalized for sharding and consensus. We're going to write it down and hopefully start implementing soon. So Node 3 is on track. Lots of great features around, to be honest here, I'm going off of memory here on Node 3. What are we talking about? We're talking about gRPC API methods within Rolang.
Daemon status.
Daemon status, yes, that's right. So, and integrating, basically bringing both the peer-to-peer functionality and the REPL together. Improved error handling in the REPL. I just got that question in the roadmap presentation about it's crashing. So Henry and Kyle are actively working on fixing that bug. And Node 4 and 5 have been specified, and those are now going into planning. So we're now starting to do the specific detailed breakdown of the tasks and work items that are going to go into those releases. And I'm pushing ahead, specifying Node 6 and 7. And then I'm going to turn my attention to getting a beta readiness program together. So when we launch testnet, we have a set of test cases that we want to see. We can put documentation in the hands of the companies that are going to be onboarding onto the testnet. So lots of great activity and planning, as Greg said, lots of great conversations and people coming together and to get the platform built. So I'll take any questions that may arise. If anybody has questions.
I don't think we're live streaming, so.
Oh yeah, that's right. No. So, but anybody on the Zoom room that has questions.
No, it's just live streaming the conference. Yeah, so this will just be uploaded, but still. Tim, why don't you introduce your group and say a little bit about it?
Yeah, this is working out wonderful. So the developer conference is a perfect opportunity to introduce new talent and new people from Europe to RChain, exposure to RChain. And the feedback is very, very inspiring. So we came with 16 people from Europe, mainly from the area of Amsterdam and Berlin.
One second.
Yeah.
Well, my pleasure. I want to get back to the session.
Of course, yeah.
Thank you.
And we are looking into how we can provide value for RChain. So we see like the need to support tool development, documentation, reach out. There are a lot of different things we would be very happy to support with, and learning more about Rolang and the paradigm shifts we already started to have. And to pass it around, I mean, we have like 4 people from this group here in this room right now. Maybe we have some feedback from them what they think.
We need that. Can you say one piece of one thing that grabbed your attention?
First point where this can happen is
the expressiveness of Rolang.
Yes. Besides that, personally, for me, from the standpoint of developer, I think the concurrency inside Rolang and the concurrency as a base, I think is really impressive. As well, we've been developing so long in a synchronous environment. I think it's amazing we're shifting towards concurrency. And combine that with scalability, and you, from a developer standpoint, you've never had so much threads available to your code to be running on.
I think I feel incredibly privileged to be here. So I would like to thank RChain and anybody who organizes this too. It's great, but what I feel is really incredible is that this is the birth of new blockchain, of a new paradigm, or maybe a new way of organizing society. That's what we hope. And I have this feeling generally, I think, when I go to meet people in blockchain, that's that they're really thinking about what they want, and they're visionary what society should be. And that's so interesting, because suddenly we have the blockchain, suddenly we can think out of how we are organizing stuff right now, and we can think again about how we want it to be. So it's maybe a bit like the founding fathers in America when they drafted the Constitution. I mean, how we're going to replace it with
You feel like we have some purpose?
That might be strange, but maybe in 200 years they're looking back at this conference and thinking about what happened, and we're documenting. Yeah, that's I think my 2 cents.
Yeah. Everything you guys said, I absolutely agree with 120%. No question about that. What I'd like to add is RChain Roland works. The node works. We can do stuff. That's my point. I've made it work. We've made it work. First day we came here, we already had. Actually, I mean, a mailing list is a bloody complicated thing, and we did it. Wow. Yeah, it wasn't distributed, but it works by construction. So that was super awesome. And what really excites me is that where RChain is going to, where the people will be taken by RChain when they realize what it is, when they start building tools that actually enable them to do what they've always had in their minds. So we even came up with the in-browser interpreter for Roland. So you maybe heard of it, RChain.cloud. So people can actually just test it in the browser, so they don't even have to set up the node. And that's exactly what I meant. So we came here, we learned something, and then boosh, we created something that just makes stuff even more accessible for everyone. And I'm waiting. I'm anxious to see GUIs that allow us to make RChain accessible to people who aren't really these analytic, code-based thinkers, who can actually approach the new paradigm from a completely different perspective. And when we get there, I think it's going to explode. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it will. Absolutely, absolutely. The question is if that comes before the natural language transpilers or after the natural language transpilers. That's the question.
So apparently there's an audio problem. I can't hear us very well with the mic on the. Oh no!
That's why it was so loud. I hope they heard you guys.
Hey.
Yes. Okay.
All right. Repeat what you said.
Yeah. I don't know. Wherever you check the Zoom chat message. Does it have a time on it?
I can hear most everything pretty well.
Okay. Well, it should be even better now. Jim, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can.
Table speaking.
Sounds good. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, it sounds good.
And then click the arrow. Make sure the C920 is selected.
This one?
Yep.
Program? Yeah, it's in there.
Okay, click it. Yeah. Okay. It should be good now. So
awesome.
And then just roll back from. Yeah, I don't know when that time was. So like I don't know, 5-7 minutes. Sorry.
That's okay. That's all right. I think
11 or 8, 10 minutes.
Thanks. I don't think we have to roll back. We can roll forward.
Yeah. Roll forward.
Yeah. So I'll give a few more updates.
Doesn't look like the webcam is on in there. Let me see.
Okay.
There we go.
Great. Wonderful. Some nuts and bolts things. The transactions on the building closed last Friday.
Oh, cool.
So the co-op is officially owner of a building in West Seattle. So I'm really looking forward to hosting you guys, and we are going to start doing some serious hacking, some filming, some whiteboarding. One of the things that you and who was the other?
Andreas.
Andreas.
No.
Anyway, a couple of people approached me about coming up to speed on the background.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so what I said was that in order for me to sort of do that, I have to go past a certain point. So there's a new version of the row calculus that I came up with a few months back. I showed it to Mike. I talked about it once on the Casper Hangout, but it allows us to reason about spatial stuff. And so so what I will do is I'll bring whoever wants to participate in those sessions. I'll go from the beginning. We'll start kind of at the pi calculus or somewhere around there, and go all the way up to the new version of the row calculus, so people can see what should be happening is that at a certain point, the members of this community should be able to design their own calculi. It's really not that hard. Once you get the hang of it, it's not so hard. And so we'll hopefully that's what people can get out of this.
How long does it take if we make such a session? How much time do we need to
So we'll probably run those sessions for about 45 minutes to an hour each session, but we'll follow at the pace of the group, right? So so I'm relying on you guys to set up the venue, and then negotiate amongst the participants what the time slot is. I imagine there's going to be some deltas between Seattle and Europe and possibly other places in the world. So we'll have to pick a time slot where everyone is awake or no one has to feel too much pain.
So we build up like a video curriculum while we do that.
That's the idea. Right? That's exactly the idea.
Sounds very good.
Yeah.
Cool.
So Patrick, Tim, will you announce that? How to join that?
Pardon?
Will you announce how to join that?
Yeah, that is a good point. I think we need to set it up. Think about how we can have a good communication channel while doing that. So we have like a shared space, right? Maybe Zoom is a good way to do that.
Yeah, Zoom is ideal. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we would certainly announce that. I mean, there will be a limitation in how many people can interactively work with that.
Yeah.
But there will be no limitation on publishing that online, right?
That's correct.
So I would propose that we have like a group of maximum 10 people, something like that. And then just publish the videos if there's consent that we can publish them.
So the two other pieces of coordination. So you're seeing how RChain works in real time here. two other pieces of coordination. One is please coordinate with Christian so that he can handle the AV on this. So he can set up, he can give you a Zoom channel, which is already paid for, so it's at the pro level, and you get there. And the other thing is coordinate with Aitan, who is helping with the helping bootstrap RChain research. So we'll view this as a part of the RChain research project.
Yeah.
And so budget for that will come out of the RChain research budget.
Cool.
Perhaps we can also think about after this, if it's successful, but more structural way.
Yeah.
Of doing more, also, because I'm sure besides the calculate, there are so many things which are interesting.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. We want to do a series on Ladle.
Let's not just go with one lecture, but proof of concepts, and after that, we build for it.
Well, what comes out of those sessions will also be useful for partnerships with universities as well. And so Berkeley, they're on sort of standby for us to develop content for them for their syllabus around Rolang. So
excellent.
All of that we need to sort of like build now, then to sort of feed that in just sort of like a standard package as a syllabus.
Fantastic. Very, very good.
Yeah.
One other piece of the puzzle is if you could coordinate with DAPHub, because I know a lot of their members would probably want to participate in this and come up to speed. Awesome. Okay.
As a last question, does it make sense that we schedule that on a weekly reoccurring day, or should we just? I think it makes sense to follow your schedule there.
Yeah, weekly recurring.
Weekly recurring.
Yeah, but not forever.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
just until we get to the point where someone else in the group besides me can present the new version of the row calculus.
Okay.
So if it's weekly recurring, is there going to be like a homework? For lack of a better word.
That makes sense. Like preparations as well, right? So we should have like preparations and in the sessions itself. What would be the first dates to do that?
That's up to you. I don't know yet.
We get to middle of May, right after following Casper stand up.
Oh no, because Dev stand up happens then. The RChain Dev stand up. So I could potentially do, like, you guys are all in Germany, right?
Yeah.
So I could potentially do it before Casper stand up. So that might be 6 a.m. for me on Monday.
That's tough. Really appreciate that. Cool. Yeah, I noted that down. Definitely. Cool. That sounds really awesome.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. So let's see. What are some other updates?
Kevin from Reflective.
Yes.
Yeah, I definitely have some updates.
Please go for it.
All right. Well,
Yes.
okay. So very quickly, hi everyone. The conference has been really great. We've had just short of 30 companies come, and including groups that aren't necessarily building apps, but also a economist, as well as a company that's thinking about creating a passive index fund around RChain and all of the apps that will be built on it, and so putting a value to the RChain ecosystem. And so those startups have been in meetings. They've met with Meta, and they've been exchanging ideas. They've had their questions answered. Also, from the PowerFX team's perspective, they were also able to gather requirements that the businesses are asking about. So when Mercury is live, what will be functional, so that they can go around planning their roadmap as they build out the apps. We also have an event on May 3rd in San Francisco with the Berkeley blockchain team, and it'll be in San Francisco, not Berkeley. And so more details on that we'll share with the community coming up. Currently, we have 2 talks happening at the conference, and so Greg Heiss is speaking about the reflective view on how we go about investing in companies. And then John West will be giving a talk on tokenomics and ROC as an asset for compensation with the bounty program, and how we protect ourselves and make sure that we reduce the volatility by being careful with exchanges, etc. And then later on, David Otto is going to be on a panel discussing law and securities with some other people here at the forum.
Awesome.
Yep. So that was pretty much it, but it was a lot, and we had a really great dinner last night, and quite a few people from the community were there, and it was really good. I know we're all about decentralization, but sometimes centralization of folks and being in the same room gets a lot done. So that really went a long way.
Yeah, that's true. Just in connection with the May 3rd event,
yes.
Right after that, the May 4th, I'll be speaking at Coinbase.
Oh, that's
nice. So we're excited to get that conversation going. I think it's a part of I think they're doing monthly series and monthly talks.
Okay.
And they actually pulled some strings to get us in on the 4th. So I'm really
that's excellent.
Grateful to them for doing
May the
that.
4th be with you.
You can pull that one in.
Yeah. So let's see. What else have we got? My brain is fried. I had to give 3 talks this week, and I'm trying to pull together all the stuff that has gone on. Yeah, go ahead.
Is there any update regards European co-op?
Yeah, so not since last week. I mean, basically the board agreed to work with Ella to get a revision on that proposal, and then as soon as so I need to push on that, to make sure that that's moving along at a pace. Also hoping that you and the H3Uni people and Peter will help move that along, right? Yeah. So that's that is another update. So the board also has approved for me to negotiate with the H3Uni people to run a workshop, sort of an attunement workshop. So I've been grabbing moments here and there with Ian Kendrick, and many people may remember Ian from the Sunday brunch talk that he gave at the governance forum. So we're trying to nail down an SOW around that event, and that sort of to support what he was calling massive interaction.
Yeah.
So
I had a longer conversation with him, and we are very aligned with that we would like to push that in Europe and use the new methods there to build a strong cohesion in the group, which is over there.
Yeah.
So I think this is like pretty much plain field, right? Because Europe is just emerging right now.
Yeah.
So it's way easier to try out things there right now.
Awesome. This is really good. Likewise, there's some work at a newer university in Singapore that Georgios, is it Stavros is his last name?
I don't know his last name.
Yeah, but so Giorgio is someone who knows economy game theory, distributed systems, and he has a group in Singapore that's already starting to do testing of the Casper FFG, the friendly finality gadget, and so he's now moving into testing the CBC style Casper, and so the co-op is going to support that effort, and one of the things that's kind of high on the list, so we know that after we start up the European cooperative, we want to open up offices somewhere in Southeast Asia, and Singapore has bubbled to the top of the list of places to go, and so Giorgio said that he could help with that. In connection with that, one of the things that we've talked about here with Nash and several others is we're going to be partnering with some industry-based partners to build up infrastructure so that we can have high-speed nodes, right? But we also want to balance that with other infrastructure providers. And in particular, I believe that the high-performance centers in most of the universities, high-performance compute centers. So I know Edinburgh has a high-performance compute, so does Sorbonne, so does Singapore. So what we want to do is also partner with the universities that have high-performance compute to build out an infrastructure where they can first test and then host nodes. And I think this will help provide a different approach to running validators. And then along those lines, I think I don't know if I mentioned this in the last community hangout, but it bears mentioning multiple times. I think we have this unique opportunity when it comes to validators in the Genesis block. What we would like is validators across many different demographics, across many different constituencies and concerns. It's this funny thing, which has been, the hallmark of RChain. Our work is our marketing, right? So the security of the network, we need all eyes, as many eyes as we can get on the security of the network. Well, because it's people watching, it's also marketing, right? So there's this event which we only get once, which is the publication of the Genesis block, and I want to think about what kinds of organizations would we like to approach to be validators. So one thought that occurred to me was, what about all the world's cities? So should the city of Seattle host a validator, right? Should the city of New York host a validator? What about Tokyo, right? Paris, right? I think if we were able to pull this off, and we have to convince them. We have to talk to these cities about why this is a good idea.
Universities, NGOs.
Universities, NGOs, exactly.
EEF.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking, what about the Ethereum Foundation?
Yes, that's a very good idea.
Right? Because I think that shows the spirit of the blockchain,
Yeah, collaboration.
And then, but also I think we should consider high-profile individuals. Should Bernie Sanders host a validator, right? Well, what about Jay-Z? I mean, I'm serious, actually.
Monarchs.
Yeah. Across all the full gamut of society, right? We get people staking this network, and that boosts both the profile of the network, but the security of the network, which is the more important thing, right? And it also opens up these opportunities because, like, the city of Seattle may not know much about blockchain in general and RChain specifically. So we need to provide them with, after we've convinced them, we need to provide them with consulting services, and we need to make it easy for them to launch a node, which is why we're partnering with these industry partners and hopefully universities to build up this infrastructure.
Some question in regards to that. Do we plan, if you have high performance nodes on the one side and we have very slow nodes, this will impact how the network will run, right?
That's correct.
So we will have like probably different regions, I assume?
That's exactly right. That's the idea.
Okay, so we have the high performance nodes in one region, and then we have like the normal, maybe even members running a node at the Genesis time.
Yeah.
Is it planned to have multiple regions with the Genesis already?
Yes, there will be multiple regions with the Genesis block. Yeah, that's on the roadmap right now.
And the regions are not necessarily geographic.
Yeah,
that's
sure.
correct.
Sure.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Is there any approach to support that members run nodes during?
So high performance though nodes will
typically be geographically. But so we have to balance out, you know, the pressures to centralize versus the need to decentralize, right? So this is the kind of balancing act that we're going to be playing all over.
So if we're talking about Genesis, then we should probably use every opportunity to notify people about the event and about the exchanging, well, the conversion from Rock to Rev.
You read my mind. That was the very next thing on my list. So Nash gave a very good talk, and that was live streamed yesterday, and we want to reference it here on the Hangout. And we need to reach out to all members of the community here to start getting the word out about what it is we wish to do with respect to the Rock to Rev conversion. So I think there's general support and agreement. It hasn't been ratified by the board, but there's general support and agreement that the way we want to conduct this is to announce a particular block height, and there's some mechanics around that, which we'll talk about. But we announced an Ethereum block height, after which time, we're not considering any change in Ethereum balances, and so it's up to members to get their tokens, or not just members of the co-op, but Rock holders to get their tokens into a wallet style address as opposed to a smart contract. And then we will simply record those balances in the Genesis block.
And the question of when we release what that block height is, handling that in an interesting way where bitwise, or every couple weeks we'll release another digit.
Yeah, so we'll release a certain number of bits in the number that announces the block height. Yeah. So please let people know about this. Because obviously it becomes a means by which people could be phished. Right? So people need to know that after a certain point we're not looking at the changes in balances, and the community then has to. So we'll publish the block that we've got, right? So people can go and investigate that, and then we'll publish the data that's going to be transferred into the Genesis block, right? And then so that people can check and make sure, they don't say, oh wait, you're missing a million rocks that I have, right? So please get the word out as much as possible. We'll also be working with exchanges to help with that process. That's another update I want to mention in just a few minutes. But I want to make sure everyone in this room, you kind of got it. You know what the process is.
The question I have is, can we make very clear which communication channels we will use, because this will be very important to ensure that we have the trusted channels.
Yeah.
where this information is announced.
Yeah. So specifically, it will be on Discord. It will be on the RChain website and Telegram, at a minimum.
And we'll do Medium post also.
We'll do a Medium post as well. Yeah, exactly.
What about publishing it on one or several blockchains as well?
That's a great idea.
Because then you have immutable.
Yeah, no, that's a really good idea.
Put it on Ethereum. Yes.
Yeah.
Great idea.
So again, all of these are susceptible to phishing. So we have to be, we have to use the community eyeballs to make sure that everyone is informed, right? And this means crossing languages, right? So it could be that someone in China, sets up an attack, and it's hard for those of us who don't speak Chinese to know that this is going on. So we really have to depend upon the community to get this done. Awesome. So a few other points that are related to that. We had a fantastic meeting with Bitrex, right on the heels of signing the letter of intent with Lika. Literally the day we signed the letter of intent with Lika, Ed Eichholz sent me an email saying, by the way, I'm meeting with Bitrex today. And I said, great, can I join? And he said, yeah, of course. So I joined the meeting, and we had a fantastic conversation. They were totally on board with helping us. They're very excited about hosting our nodes in their exchange. They're excited about helping us test out the nodes, especially under pressure, under load, and sharing with us APIs for slotting our nodes under their exchange.
Cool.
Yeah, so things are happening at a breakneck pace.
That's good. That's great.
Yeah. So if anyone has any leads into KuCoin, then that would be another one we want to go to. And in fact, we need to get global coverage for most of the exchanges. So we need to be having those conversations now. Let's see.
Hey, Greg, a question on the rock to rev. Has there been any talk about a multiplier, like increasing the? It's like, so you take like one rock can become 2 rev, so everybody has the same proportion, but there would be more quote revs in supply. The video freeze for everybody else.
The audio is quiet.
Well, I think the video froze too, right, Jim? Yeah, they got kicked off, it looks like.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can still hear
Christian,
someone talking.
Yeah, Christian's on it. He's working on it.
Sorry we lost you there. Thanks for.
There they are.
Thanks for bringing up that question, Kenny. And you're a very brave man, and I really appreciate it. So I actually completely understand. Yes.
No, I'm just playing around.
Oh, okay.
I do stuff like this.
No worries. So I completely understand the sentiment behind that question. Right. So let's imagine that we wanted to get the RChain community and the economics around it to the size of the economy of California. Then 1 billion tokens is simply not sufficient as a supply. It's just not. And everyone needs to recognize that. It's the mechanics make our code more complicated.
Can they hear you now?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. However, I don't know if this is the moment to address that particular problem. I think in terms of keeping our word to the community, it's that we've said all along 1 for 1. I think the best, we might have to bite the bullet here and just simply, make sure that we do what we said, even though we know that the reality is that 1 billion tokens is an insufficient supply. So, but I love the idea of having this conversation. I think it's a very important conversation. I'd love to have a vigorous conversation around it. Yeah, so thank you very, very much for bringing it up.
Yeah, it might be something for the October general meeting to discuss and talk about. So for future planning.
That is a great idea. That is a really, really good idea. Thank you very, very much. Cool. So let's see, what else have we got in terms of updates? Any other questions or comments here from the group? Please.
The conference has been wonderful. The Rolang tutorials, the Rolang talks have been very, made a lot of progress, and it's starting to become intelligible. And about the dApps, the interesting part will be when blockchain just fades into the background, and the new games, the new uses for dApps, just that's what people do. It's available to everybody.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, actually, one of the things that I was thrilled about is just, you know, if you stop and think about RSpace, just RSpace alone, this is a new high-performance database model and implementation that we have simply given to the community. It's free. You can get it off of GitHub and just use it. And we would love for that to happen. And one of the things that I think is so powerful about it is if you think about how it integrates with Rolang, it gives you this unbelievably powerful query language. Because you channels in Rolang are keys in the database. And now when you say for some pattern from a key, that pattern is now your query language. You only pull out the data that matches that pattern. So we like, you know, instead of retrofitting language integrated query into a language like C#, this was built in from the beginning.
That's awesome.
So I'm waiting for people to understand how powerful this is.
and correct by construction, Greg. And it's also, we know it's right.
Wasn't there a discussion around the fact that it could be used separate from Rolang?
It can be used separate from Rolang. All I was saying was that if you combine it with Rolang, then you get this language integrated query feature.
I understand that part. Thank you. I was mentioning, though, that there's also an opportunity for adoption outside of the community. And it'd be great if there was at least like a marketing behind that there's RSpace out there, and it can be used independently from RChain, but these big features and here's why.
Yeah, it would be very helpful to have like a clear like value proposition worked out, and then maybe even pushing that into the rest of the Linux Foundation or something like that. A place where it can get, you know, more community and more development.
No, that's great. That's a great idea. Thank you. Really good idea.
You said the Linux community?
Yeah,
Linux Foundation.
Linux Foundation.
Or Apache. Or
right.
And
like, definitely.
So yeah, please, people look at the components as having individual value on their own, which has always been the, you know, again, it's a part of this whole decentralized ethos. Each of the parts stands on its own and has a value. And when they work together, even more value.
So definitely use Rolang.
Value propositions. Very good there.
Excellent. Do you have anything else? Any burning questions? Anything we wanted to talk about? Anything from the group that's in the community group?
Oh, we missed the rest of the chat because we lost connection.
Oh, okay.
A GraphQL self-sovereign stack that we're experimenting with Digital Life Collective and RChain and HoloChain. It strikes me that, you know, XSpace is a perfect backend for GraphQL, and the apps will glide nicely onto RChain as it becomes available.
That's an interesting idea. So integrating, so putting a GraphQL in front of RSpace, is that your proposal?
Yeah, the self-sovereign stack includes the back end of the front end through GraphQL queries and mutations.
Sweet. That's great. That's a really interesting idea. Cool. Anything else? Going once?
Going twice.
Going twice. Awesome. We get to yield back 12 minutes to the community. Fantastic. There are a lot of normally I think the community would say no, but so many of us want to be in these sessions.
Yeah.
So thanks again, guys, and we'll see you next week.